and I stop it. I have that little thing, that little thing.
Welcome into Boxing Scene's top stories here on ProBox TV. Download the ProBox TV app. Never fall behind in your boxing news. Well, O'Shaquie Foster is getting an opportunity that most people don't get. A second chance and a quick one against Robson Conceicao. That is November 2nd in a fight that was controversial the first time around. Most people with eyes thought that O'Shaquie Foster won the fight over Robson Conceicao. But how does that change the rematch? To help me break it down, Jimmy Smith in studio alongside the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, and coach Teddy Atlas joining us via Zoom. Paulie, let me start with you. This is a weird rematch because most people thought he won. Judges didn't give it to him. Does he fight the same fight? Does he have to be more aggressive? Can he not let it go to the cards? How do you approach a rematch where you won in most people's eyes, man?
I had a similar situation in my career when I fought Juan Diaz. And I remember my game plan was don't change anything. There's no way they're going to rob you again. There's been this blowback. The reason there is a rematch is because of all this entire blowback of the robbery. So that means the judges are going to be on their P's and Q's. They might actually overcompensate in your favor this time around because there's been so much blowback with the decision. So my personal opinion is you don't have to change anything. This time you'll be credited with what you do. And if you do it better, it's, hey, even better. But if you try to come out of yourself, I always felt like, when fighters had to try to come outside of themselves, so to speak, to impress more or do more, they end up getting themselves knocked out and then getting beat for real. You don't put yourself in a position to get beat for real. Do what you do best. So whatever my personal opinion based on even my experiences is, go with what you do best. Live and die by what you do best. Because if you come out of that, so to speak, outside of yourself, you may risk making mistakes you don't usually make. You may risk fighting a certain kind of fight that you don't usually fight, which then becomes your undoing, and then you lose for real, and then you're done, and then you have more problems, because then you lost for real and nobody's gonna help you. Right now, because of the robbery, you got a lot of push for you, and I think you gotta do what got you there, in my opinion.
Teddy, I have to ask you a coaching question. Behind the scenes, when a fighter says, oh, I thought I won that fight, I was the one, when the fight's controversial, you as a coach, you're standing next to this fighter, you're saying he won. In the back, are you saying, in the gym, look, you lost that fight. You have to improve X, Y, and Z. If you're a Robson Conceicao's coach, do you convince him he lost the first fight? How do you deal with the mental side of a fight like this if you're in Conceicao's corner?
He could have done more. He could have done more. Listen, I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon and say it was a Brinks robbery job, because for me it wasn't. I thought Foster had an edge. I did not think that it was a blatant robbery that we see way too often. I mean, the list would. I mean, I couldn't even begin to tell you the list of robberies much worse than this, because we would be on for until next week going over that list, and we don't have that kind of time. So, for me, yeah, he was a real surgeon, Foster. That's his thing, counterpunching. He doesn't waste anything. All right, that could come back and bite you, where sometimes, where you could be out hustled, you can be outworked. I thought there were an argument you could say that he was out hustled, he was outworked in some spots where some rounds were grabbed from him, where, yeah, he was back there like the surgeon, picking his spots, not looking to waste anything at all and making sure everything counted. But sometimes, again, you put yourself in peril with that kind of style. And it wasn't where he was hurt, where he dropped him and he was hurting him with those concise punches. And he is a concise puncher. He is a sharpshooter. He's all those things. He is a real good, solid boxer. The sweet science, all of that jazz. But the other guy knew what he was doing too. An older guy, a guy that worked. The work rate was more. I know you don't get credit. You're not supposed to get credit for just being aggressive, just throwing punches. Who lands the more clean, effective punches? Conceicao landed also clean, effective punches. Again, I didn't see the Brinks job the way a lot of people did. For me, it's simple. I sit down with my fighter and I watch the damn tape with no sound on it. I watch it and I stop it. I have that little thing, that little thing. Paulie, that thing. You know?
Little clicker.
The first thing or the second thing.
No, the thing, the thing, that guy, that
You
thing.
talking about whacking somebody? Is that what we're talking about right here?
No, no,
You
no.
New
We're
Yorkers,
talking
I
about
like this stuff.
remote control. Look where your mind goes. My
The
God,
thing,
look where
you
your
took
mind
care of
goes.
the thing. I understand, Teddy.
That,
Go ahead.
that thing. So you push that thing and it stops, and you rewind, and you look at the replay, and you look. Let's look again. Let's look right here. You hit him with the jab. You could have done more. You could have done. You had an opportunity without being careless, without going outside. Of your temperament, where you don't want to. He's a cautious guy, where you don't want to get reckless. It wouldn't have been reckless. It was reckless not to throw more punches. You hit him with the jab. You set the table. You could have hit him with something else. If you hit him with something else, they can't rob you. Use your jab more. There were a lot of dead spots where nothing was going on. You could have been jabbing more. Again, you could have been doing more off of your jab. There was more you could have done. I'm sitting down with that remote control. I'm stopping it. A 45-minute or whatever fight will maybe take 3 hours to finish going through it back and forth, making him look at everything where he could have done something a little bit more and become a better fighter. Isn't that the goal anyway? Isn't that goal? Whether they take you, don't take from you, rob you, don't rob you, you want to become better. Even if you had won that day, I'd be doing the same thing if they lifted your hand. I'd be saying, look, next time we might not get away with this kind of fight. We can get better.
When you think about it, Chris, we sit ringside Wednesday night fights, and one of the things you say all the time is, I see this, but judges might see that. Is it up to the corners sometimes to go, hey, I think you're winning, but push the pace, step in a little bit more. Judges might be, as Teddy said, taking credit away from you for stepping back. How much is that in a fighter's mind? How much does that be in the corner's mind, Chris?
Well, I mean, let me just talk about this fight first. Teddy, I'm sorry, I'm going to respectfully push back. I had Oshaki boxing that Olympian shoes off. Right. I thought he was. I actually like both fighters a lot. I've called a bunch of them on Top Rank undercards. And Conceicao, listen, we're talking about Olympic gold medalist. This guy, he's phenomenal. And in his past, he was actually fighting much more the way Foster was that night. Pot shot, shoot, very, very sharp, technical. Lost some really close decisions because of that. And a lot of decisions that people thought that he won. Recently, he's turned into a hard-charging effort guy. And it's been a lot of fun. The Navarrete fight was awesome. He came on super strong at the end of that fight. And in this fight, for me, I thought his effort kept him in the fight. I didn't see how he could have won the fight. But in terms of what happens next, and what Foster needs to do, I agree with you, Champ. Paulie, he should just do the same thing. It worked the first time. And judges are humans, man. They're reading these reports too. They're going to hear how many people are screaming conspiracy and robbery from the rooftops. And I'm not going to say robbery. I hate the R word. It's got to be really blatant for me to call that. But I think Oshaki is going to actually put himself in danger in this fight, because he's probably not going to do the same thing. And he's going to feel the pressure, losing your title the way that he did. The emotion that he showed in that post-fight interview, where he was literally crying on air, which I understand. You know, you thought you did everything right. You thought you made the adjustment that people wanted to see, because he got a lot of stress back in the day because the way he fought. He'd fall behind, and then he became a cardiac kid at the end of every fight and had to knock guys out in the last round. He had to charge and drop people in, at the end, like he did with Nova. So I think he made some adjustments because of listening to the fans and everyone around and the writers around him, and he made adjustments. He might do that again, and I think that's going to give more opportunity for Conceicao, who is an effort guy now at this stage of his career, to pull out another victory. This is a really interesting fight. Listen, when I was watching, I'm like, Foster beats this guy all day. He'll beat him again in the rematch. Now that we're getting closer, I don't know, man. Like, this is a real fight.
If it's okay, I'm gonna push back on you a little bit,
course,
just a tiny bit, because you push me, I push you.
That's why we're here.
It's a push pop. Remember in the '80s, the push pop?
We're pushing.
I'm not a bully. I want some pushback too. Let's get
a little bit. That's what makes the world go around sometimes. Look, I understand what you're saying. Unfortunately, the criterion of the sport sometimes leaves it to be too subjective, where it should be more stricter. where we wouldn't have this so often. And then, of course, there's other elements. Sometimes these judges are incompetent, and sometimes they're biased, and maybe even crooked. We won't even go there right now. But where I push back a little bit is I don't think that Foster is going to change. I think that guys with that kind of definitive style, careful style, that like Floyd Mayweather, just defensive and smart and very precise. Mayweather does a little more, but very precise. I think that's part of their nature.
Yeah, but Teddy, he doesn't always fight like that. Recently, this has been an adjustment because he had a bunch of fights where it was wars. He was in. We called him the cardiac kid on air a few times, Foster, because he was in fights.
I just don't think you go backwards. You know more about him than me, and I will defer to you. But I just don't think you go backwards. When you get to that, he fought like a guy that believed inside his soul and his, like I said, his temperament, his personality looked to me like a guy that had been doing this. So I'm not aware that he was that aggressive before. Maybe with a different level of opponent, but at a level where he's at a top level, he showed me. Again, I only saw him in that spot, but he showed me at that level that's him. We got to know the saying: people born round don't die square. That's him. That is his nature.
Teddy, he won the title. He won the title coming back like a cardiac kid.
Yeah.
He won the title in a come from behind KO.
Against a really tough Mexican dude, he had to really go after it. He threw like 140 punches in the last round.
How did he get behind in that fight? Was it fighting?
It was a war. It was a war. He was just getting outworked by a
Mexican
Mexican
guy.
Through.
Through.
Yeah.
You got to watch it, Ted. I'm telling you, it's
a great fight.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
And even the Nova fight.
Listen, you educated me. You guy, I'm willing to be educated. But when I saw him that night, he looked like a guy that was in, like he was all in mentally, emotionally, technically. That he was into that style.
He'd been criticized a lot for being the cardiac kid, so I think he was committed to being that boxer, and it went backwards.
It's just amazing he could do it that well because he like you said, Ted, he looked super.
But you got to watch it, Ted. I think
I will. Yeah. I will, and I thank you guys for telling me that.
And I got to bring one point nobody brought up because I've been in this kind of rematch situation. The opponent also makes adjustments. We're talking about Oshaki's adjustments. The insecurity of the guy who got the decision he didn't deserve also comes into play here. Yeah, and I'll go into my experience. I remember Juan Diaz when I rematched him, known for a lot of aggressiveness. Baby Bull was his nickname. He came out in the rematch the first 2 rounds and came out boxing instead of being aggressive. Gave away the first 2 rounds to me because obviously I outboxed him without breaking a sweat in the first 2 rounds. It's the pressure that was bothering me from Diaz. They didn't start pressuring me until round 3. They were already down 20-18. So they gave me 2 rounds in the bag in the rematch without even having to break a sweat. So now it became a 10-round fight instead of a 12-round fight where I had to deal with pressure. So, and I'm just using that as an example. Conceicao and his team could also be insecure by getting a decision they know they may not have deserved. And they may also put in some adjustments which may or may not work.
Champ, and that's why I said this fight is so interesting now. Like this rematch is a whole new fight. It's completely different. We don't know who's going to come out in what way.
November 2nd, it's going to be an incredible rematch off a controversial fight, a great thing in the sport of boxing. And as that fight makes news, we'll break down the news here on ProBox TV. Don't miss our Wednesday night fight, a women's rematch from Madison Square Garden. You're going to love it.
Wednesday night fights. In partnership with DeBella Entertainment, it's Broadway Boxing, Heroes on the Hudson 2, with proceeds benefiting veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces. October 23rd. Don't miss Mio Yoshida as she defends her IBF Bantamweight World title in a rematch against Sharetta Metcalf. Live from the theater at Madison Square Garden, Wednesday night fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.